Hello, everyone. And, or by everyone, I mean currently Critical Cripple and Godless Scummer, who are currently in the chat, whoever might be lurking there, and whoever might be watching in the future. As you can see, I'm currently guestless because I guess that's what happens when I talk about a niche subject. Welcome to the season 1 finale of Media Musings, and today we are talking about the Dresden Files, because on the 14th, this Tuesday, the latest novel Peace Talks is going to be released. Now, cripes, this is why I have guests. I need someone to bounce off of. Oh, and so hold on, I'll see. I'll get the pop out chat so I can at least react to that. Oh, okay. So for those of you who are watching and who don't know, the Dresden Files is an urban fantasy series written by Jim Butcher. Now, urban fantasy is essentially fantasy that takes place in our world, in a modern day, our contemporary-ish setting. In which there are, in which magic and other supernatural elements still exist. Like, for instance, you could probably call the TV show Supernatural an urban fantasy. Harry Potter is technically an urban fantasy. And yes, exactly. It has nothing to do with World War II. It follows a wizard named Harry Dresden, or rather his full name is Harry Blackstone Coppersfield Dresden, who also works as a detective and a consultant for the Chicago Police Department when they run into cases that are, too freaky and outside the normal realm. So, hence the title of the series is, like files as in case files. And, Dresden is the surname of the main character. Now, I heavily enjoy the series. It has a very good sense of humor about it. The main character is very snarky, and it's written in the first person, and it's also one of the better approaches to world building I've seen, because like the first 3 or 4, possibly the first 5 novels of the book of the series are essentially contain self-contained stories that basically just together are stealth world building. Because the first one, Stormfront, is essentially introduces the main character and kind of gives an overview of how magic works, because Dresden is tracking down a serial killer who's using I'm going to be talking minor spoilers in this stream, because though I will essentially stop at changes, because as appropriate of the title changes a lot of what's going on, and it very much upsets the order that, the not the order as in, the list order, but the order of the like, it very much upsets the balance of power and such in the setting. But yes, so the first novel, Stormfront, introduces, like, basically how magic works. Harry is tasked by the Chicago Police Department to help solve a series of rather gruesome and mysterious murders. And it, turns out that the culprit is a sorcerer, which in this setting is essentially a homeschooled wizard. There isn't really much of a difference between a wizard and a sorcerer in the setting. The only real difference is wizards had formal training, but who's using the energy from storms to complete a pretty nasty bit of magic to take out people he doesn't like. And so the second one, Full Moon, is basically explains how werewolves work in the setting. Once again, people are dying, and during the full moon, and that there's not really a lot to be said about that one as of yet. And so book 3 is Grave Peril, I believe. And anyone who's watching probably picked up on the naming convention of the series. For the most part, it's, 2 words that each have the same letter. And I'm just double checking something because I've got to make sure that I'm actually going in order, because while they're all good, they do kind of run together a bit. Let's see. Okay, yeah, Grave Peril. That one introduces how, like, vampires and a little bit of how ghosts work. Like I said, the first few books are essentially just world building. Though we do get a bit of a bit more snark from Dresden, and we meet one of the other main secondary characters. We've already been introduced to cripes. Man. I am floundering. I am floundering by myself. And yes, thank you, Cripple. I appreciate the watch time. So yeah, this is what happens when I guess I pick a topic that no one really knows. So, you know what? So if you like fantasy, if you like noir, if you like any of those genres, especially if you like a more somewhat comedic tone, I suggest taking a look into the Dresden Files. Cripes. It's one of those settings where like pretty much everything exists. But so yeah, think supernatural, but more localized, and less we're monster hunters out to kill everything. So maybe like a more localized version of the later seasons of Supernatural without the annoying CW family drama. Oh man, there are so many angles I could try and approach this at, but I'm so flustered without having someone to bounce off of. So yeah, but 25th episode, end of season 1. Oh yeah, cripes. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah. So themes, because this is a show talking about themes. Oh cripes. Why can't I focus unless I'm talking to someone? Oh geez. I mean, yes, I'm talking to the viewers, but you know what I mean. Unless I have someone to bounce off, I can't seem to focus. Oh cripes. I'm just rambling. Okay. Yeah, this is getting painful for me almost. But yeah. You know what? I'm gonna give it a few more, give it a couple more minutes. See if someone wants to jump in and be someone I can bounce off of. And yeah, and if not, I'm probably just gonna end the stream early because I am too scatterbrained and floundered without. I'm. Wow. Yeah. So, okay, Dresden File. So, overview. First few books, stealth world building, very much one-off stories. Stormfront, basic introduction of the world. Full Moon is about werewolves. Grave Peril is about vampires and ghosts. Dresden gets invited to a vamp, and we kind of get to see a bit of the wider supernatural world in that one. Dresden gets invited to a Vampires Masquerade ball and shows up dressed as a cheesy vampire, like Bela Lugosi, full on like Halloween vampire get up, just to be a dick, because he's a good guy, but he's a bit of a sarcastic asshole dick at times. Summer Night is the fourth one. Yep. And that's about the fairy courts. And then okay, Death Masks is we're starting to get out of the introducing things phase and into where everything starts to come together. Um, I think that's the one about where he's looking for someone stole the Shroud of Turin. See, Blood Rights. Can't remember what. Yeah. So, Death Mask and Blood Rights. I can't remember what exactly their plot is off the top of my head. Then we have Deadbeat, which is a kind of stealth world building one, but things are more coming together. Where someone is raising the dead. It's about necromancy. It's about zombies, and at the climax, it's got one of the best scenes of the series, where Dresden raises Sue the Tyrannosaurus at the Chicago Field Museum, and rides it against a zombie horde to stop this necromantic ritual from happening, because they want to eat the necromancers want to eat a bunch of souls and become gods. So kind of tropey villain plot, but what's cooler than someone riding a zombie T-Rex down through Chicago to stop evil wizards? That's some straight up D&D cheese there, and it's one of the best scenes of the series. And actually, it's in Deadbeat that we get one of the most inspirational speeches, and it kind of shows that, you know what, I'm going to say it, Dresden is a much better mentor than Dumbledore. There are obviously comparisons you can make between the Dresden Files and the Harry Potter series, because obviously they're both urban fantasy. Though I will say the Dresden Files is somewhat become the example of urban fantasy. And yes. And hello, Hissy. Glad you could join me. I'm gonna just take a quick drink because my throat's a bit parched. But anyways, inspirational speech. One of the best inspirational speeches I've read. As we are not going to die. I'm too stubborn to die. And Thomas is too pretty to die. And you, Butters, you'll not die because this is Oktoberfest and Poco will never die. But yeah. And welcome, Hissy. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, yeah. It's. I know when you're running streams, it's nice to have someone to bounce off of. So, yeah. Disclaimer from the start: Hissy has only read these books once and hasn't read all of them.
Yeah,
and that was a while ago. But Hissy's going to do her best to support her husband right now.
Yes.
So be gentle, please.
Yeah.
But yeah. You were. Think I heard you say that Dresden had a better mentor than Dumbledore.
No, that Dresden is a better mentor than Dumbledore.
A wet flannel is a better mentor than Dumbledore.
Yeah.
You know, at least a wet flannel is consistent.
Yeah. But
so yeah.
And it is something that more comes up later in the series, where you kind of see that Dresden is starting to bring out the better in the people he is interacting with.
Yeah, I think anything that softens Karen up, from what I remember, has got to be a good thing. Yeah. She was very much a bit of a trope. She was the hard-ass woman trope to start with. But I still don't ship them. I can't. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, technically, like, it, canon speaking, Harry and Karen aren't really, haven't been an actual thing
yet.
Though, because the canon true pairing is Perry and the reporter he's with in Full Moon and Blood Rights.
Why does Harry have to be straight?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, okay? I just,
so,
because
do you want to talk Marconi real quick?
Listen, no straight man is that obsessed with another straight man's eyes.
Yeah.
Seriously, the number of times his eyes are commented on.
Yeah.
I just...
Though...
You're my husband and I don't comment on your eyes that much.
Though...
And you have gorgeous eyes.
Though there is a bit of a, a bit of the fact that if, a wizard looks into the, makes direct eye contact with someone, they could, potentially accidentally look into their soul.
Yeah, but even if that happened, it still doesn't... So, if that's the point, why would he keep trying to look into Marconi's soul? Because that's clearly what he's doing.
Well, no, because, the thing is, in that scene, he made eye contact, and they soul gazed, and he saw into Marconi's soul. Marconi saw into his soul.
And you telling me that's not a perfect basis for a ship?
But, though Marconi, while he's only sporadically involved in the meta, he only sporadically pops in the books, because once again the books are first person.
Mm-hmm.
He is doing a lot behind the scenes. Because so Marconi, we first meet Marconi in Stormfront, where he is essentially the mafia don for Chicago.
He's the godfather.
Yeah, he is the godfather. And actually, we encounter him again in Death Masks, where it turns out that he's not exactly he's like the better of two evils, essentially. It's like, if you want a mobster running the Chicago, underworld, the criminal underworld, you want someone like Marconi. He's very much like a kingpin kind of figure, where he does his best to keep it civilized.
Yeah.
The whole, a thief with a code of honor sort of trope.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, but this is the thing. He's a fair match for Harry.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even as an opponent, he's a fair match. He's just, you put these two up against each other, and the combination of their various skills is going to make for a hell of a fight.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know that being a fair match and a hell of a fight is more than enough to get you plenty of AO3 traction.
And yeah,
this is my ship. I will sail it.
Yeah, leave it to the leave it to the shipper to talk shipping.
What else do you want me to talk about?
But Marconi also ends up as one of the only mortal people, purely mortal, as in not a wizard, not gifted with any kind of magical artifacts like the Knights of the Cross are, to actually be recognized as a freeholding lord under the Unseelie Accords, which are essentially the supernatural Geneva Convention. He's the only he's the only guy who's just a mortal who managed to essentially get a seat at the table in regards to the supernatural powers, which are run by fairy queens and vampire lords and dragons and gods.
So why don't we have a series of books telling about his interactions with that world? I would read that.
Yeah.
I would definitely read that.
Yeah. And actually, so if you do stick through if you do get back into it and reading more, the latest, not the latest one that's coming out, but the most recent one, Skin Game, has Harry kind of going up against Marconi again because it's a heist novel essentially. He was
hold on. He takes that busted up little VW bug on a heist.
No, oh man, I think I'm pretty sure there's no recovering the Blue Beetle. I think the Blue Beetle's kind of out of the picture. Rest in peace, Blue Beetle.
But the Blue Beetle was cute.
Yeah, the Blue Beetle is actually not blue.
No, it's rust-colored and slightly green, and that bit over there's yellow.
Yeah.
I think there's a red bit under the bonnet.
Yeah, because wizards and technology don't really get together well. The only reason the Blue Beetle actually ran was because of constant maintenance by a borderline genius mechanic.
The thing is, Beetle cars have only got 3 moving parts, and none of them are electronic.
And that's the thing, is it's the cutoff date seems to be about 1940. World War II era tech is about as advanced as you can get without accidentally frying it. But so 1960s Beetle can be kept barely running.
I mean, the only electrical part on it's going to be the radio.
Yeah.
And the lights.
And I think
ignition.
I think it might have been Blood Rights where we get to see Dresden riding in a modern Humvee, and basically it's constantly just saying the door is ajar, the door is ajar, the door is ajar. It gets a bit zen after a while. Time is a river, fate is changed, the door is ajar. But anyways, so Skin Game. We are getting into some post changes, spoilers. Dresden is now a knight of the Winter Court of Fairies, and has been tasked by Queen Mab to assist a group in heisting Hades' vault. And in order to access it, they had to break into Marconi's vault in the main, in the material realm, because the way the Never Never lines up is it's more thematic than geographical.
So why wouldn't any vault do?
Well, it's also because Marconi's essentially like at this point he's essentially started like a sort of bank for the supernatural community in Chicago, where Hades had a physical lockbox in this vault as well, so it made the thematic ties more strong.
I'm wondering what on earth Hades could keep in a lockbox.
If I remember right, it was mostly just like mortal currency. Well,
that's boring.
Well, yeah, that's because all the good stuff was actually in the Never Never. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Behind a bunch of terrible, traps and other, magical security measures.
Yeah, it's like a 3-headed dog, a river that you need a coin to cross. 2,000 years worth of dead souls.
Yeah.
A doorway that you've got to travel to the end of the earth and slaughter animals to even speak through. It's a lot of security. Yeah.
And
okay, so you've done that. Now, have you mentioned Bob yet?
Bob, no, I haven't mentioned Bob. So Bob is essentially the is one of the best exposition devices written into fiction, because he is a spirit of knowledge who has been bound into a skull. So when Harry has a question that he doesn't know the answer to or can't figure out any other way, he'll go and ask Bob, who's essentially his familiar.
Except for the fact that Bob is also a tricksy little...
Yeah, a tricksy, snarky little bastard. And, for instance, the first thing, Harry wanted to, one of the first one, it's Harry wanted to look the formula for an escape potion. Because in case he got into a scrape. And so Bob tells him, but he also has, as his price, he has Harry make a love potion.
Oh, I remember this. The love potion with a tequila base.
Yeah. It turned out to be more of a lust potion.
A drunken mistakes that we don't talk about potion.
Yeah. Especially when it's accidentally taken while you're trying to fight off a toad demon.
Yeah. We don't talk about that.
No.
The first rule of Bob's Potions, we don't talk about Bob's Potions.
Yeah. And actually, once again, we're kind of getting into some post-changes stuff. Bob ends up with Waldo Butters, mortician who kind of stitches up Dresden if he can't, get first aid. Like if it's not if it needs stitches, Butters will help him out with that. Like the first aid where it's like bad enough that you kind of need actual help, but not so bad that you need to go to emergency room.
Yeah.
He's see, Butters actually is like really on Bob's good side, because he gave Bob access to the internet. And Bob is a horny, perverted spirit.
Considering that Bob lives in a skull, he does a lot of thinking with the brain that doesn't belong in there.
Yeah. But
thanks very much, folks. I'm here all week.
Yeah. And actually, Waldo's like he only shows up first in Deadbeat, but he does have a lot of growth as a character. He essentially, yes, I think we've reached a sustainable stream right now. But he essentially, he starts out as a frumpy, like nervous, nerdy, like complete introvert, like almost scared of his own shadow kind of person.
I mean, guy works with corpses for a living. He can't be that nervous.
Well, yeah, it's like he's used to, like, he's socially awkward. He's that mortician who's more at home with dead people than he is with the living.
Every mortician in media ever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that kind of takes a jump straight off the rails when the dead people start coming back and attacking him. Because Deadbeat is the zombie novel.
Of course it is. Obligatory zombie trope.
Yeah. But it's not really a zombie apocalypse. It's, necromancers doing necromancer things. But
I'm pretty sure that dinosaurs don't count under the general heading of necromancer things.
Well,
just FYI.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's actually the reason that Harry was able to, bring Sue back without getting executed for it, because dinosaurs don't count as raising the dead.
See, this is the point at which I tell you that in most museums, the bones you see are not the real bones, they're casts.
Yeah.
And how do I know this? Have I worked at museums? No, I just know a couple of really disappointed necromancers.
But, so, anyway, and I could probably get into the laws of magic later, but we're going to finish up with Waldo. So Waldo goes from a nerdy, like, poker player, like, socially awkward skitterbug to, like, being essentially, like, magical Batman.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Post changes Waldo. He doesn't know any magic himself. He doesn't have the capability to actually use magic. But he's, teamed up with Bob. He's got, like, a few, like, tricks up his sleeve.
Hey, Ring, do you mind?
I don't mind. YouTube might.
They've never stopped me before.
Yeah.
But yeah. I like characters who go through that growth, though.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have the socially awkward character not grow into a tech-savvy genius and, grow into something different occasionally, because that is a trope, but...
Brainbug, if you're talking about the TV show, the TV show is not the Dresden Files. It's okay as long as you treat it as its own thing. Like the only things that the TV show did right were I think the casting of Harry was done well. It's just they didn't give him anything to actually work with. And Bob was done brilliantly.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen one episode of it that I caught on late night TV once, and it, I don't know why, it always gave me that sort of low rent Constantine vibe.
It's basically a low rent kind of Constantine show.
Yeah,
like with the exception of Bob.
But you could put it's very difficult to do Bob wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, and skin game spoilers. Waldo also ends up becoming essentially like a Jedi of the Cross, as he gets one of the swords of the Cross, but it had lost its blade. But it basically, when he went to use it, it essentially turned into a lightsaber. It was pretty rad. But so I mentioned how raising a dinosaur doesn't exactly count as raising the dead in regards to the law. Now, the magical laws of the Dresden Files is somewhat better, but in some way worse than the magical legal system in Harry Potter is, in my opinion.
The magical legal system in Harry Potter is pretty much non-existent, let's be honest. It's whatever suits Dumbledore and the Ministry at any given point.
Yeah. On one hand, there are definite laws that you have to follow, and there are only 7 laws that you absolutely have to follow in the Dresden Files. However, if you break any of those laws, it's usually an instant death sentence, no trial.
Okay. So we're talking your 7 unforgivables is essentially what this is.
Yeah. The first being is thou shalt not kill, specifically, do not kill humans with magic.
Fair cop. Don't bring a wand to a gunfight.
Yeah. And actually, that's the one that essentially Harry had been on parole for, because he killed his terrible mentor with magic in a fit of holy shit, in self-defense.
But is anyone who's able to use magic in the Dresden verse deemed to be human?
Okay. No.
Let's say we've got Wally, who is human, but can then make the Sword of the Cross work and can jiggle about with stuff and make pseudo-magical items. Is he technically human, or does he become a wizard once he has those items?
No, he doesn't count as a wizard. I don't think Waldo would fall under the jurisdiction of the White Council. And the White Council only sees to wizards. Only sees to people who, cast spells. So, Law 2. Thou shalt not transform others without their will, or without their consent. So, basically you can't shapeshift someone without them wanting to.
The witch turned me into a newt.
Yep.
You don't look like a newt. I got better.
yeah. The witch would have been executed for turning. Thou shalt not turn into a newt.
I mean, so far those are both very reasonable.
Yeah. Thou shalt not invade the mind of another.
That's potentially problematic because is the mind conflated with the soul? And if it is, how the hell am I supposed to avoid making eye contact with everyone ever?
No, soul gaze is... No, we're talking about, like, psychomancy. Soul gazes are things that just happen. That doesn't count. But it's like, going into someone's mind and tinkering with their thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, I'd be pretty down... I'd be pretty pissed off if someone did that to me, so I can understand that.
Yeah, and it's like it's mostly a case of like the mind is so complex. Even if you're trying to help someone, you might screw them up. You might accidentally screw them up worse.
Yeah, so hands off.
Yeah. Molly. It's Molly Carpenter that gets in trouble for that one. And Harry manages to get her off the chopping block by taking her on as an apprentice. Also closely connected with the previous one, thou shalt not enthrall another. So you can't bind any being against its will. Holding fairies and demons in magic circles is kind of a loophole / gray area. So like if you
can hold them there, but it's what you make them do, isn't it? It's where the line is. Yeah.
Like summoning demons and putting fairies in fairy traps is kind of a great, like, some wardens kind of see it as getting too close to the line, but it's more of the non-enthrall is like, don't put anyone under your personal psychic domination. It's like
it's the Imperious Curse. It's
it's the Imperious Curse.
I'm going to compare it to Harry Potter's.
Yeah, and I've said it before to you. I'll say it again on this stream. If Harry Potter took place in the Dresdenverse, Harry Potter would have been executed like several times over.
Although equally, so far, all these rules you have said either he or one of his associates broke. So who's the hero in this franchise? Just saying.
Well, so in both cases, like Dresden killing with magic and Molly Carpenter with the psychomancy, they were inexperienced. Well, Harry, it was a case of self-defense.
Okay.
His mentor sicked and like a Lovecraftian monstrosity on him.
You're not going to take that out with a kitchen knife.
Yeah.
You're going to need magic for that.
Yeah, it was like a combination of self-defense and like overflow damage, essentially. In the case of Molly, she didn't know she was magically gifted and was doing it without realizing it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah. So and this is now comes the Sue loophole. Thou shalt not reach beyond the borders of life. So described as the summoning, binding, and exploitation of the unwilling dead.
Yeah, but if the creature's not sentient, how do you know it's not willing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's basically
sapient.
Yeah, sapient. So that was basically the loophole. Is
so does that mean Does that mean I can bring my dead puppy back because it's not sapient?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also why things like ectomancy are technically okay, because ectomancy is more talking with ghosts instead of like, bringing back zombies and shit.
Fair. I mean, communicating and binding are two different things.
Yeah.
We're talking now. Not one of us is not controlling the other.
Yeah.
There's the line.
And here's the one that would have gotten all three of the Golden Trio.
Thou shalt not irritate Professor Snape.
No. So we're let's see. It's Prisoner of Azkaban that they would have gotten
messing
executed.
With time, and actually that would have only been Harry and Hermione.
Yeah, thou shalt not swim against the currents of time.
Yeah, that's Harry and Hermione for Prisoner of Azkaban. Ron wasn't involved.
Yeah. So yeah, Harry and Hermione would have been executed for that. Yeah, and the thing is, like, even if you manage to get off, you're essentially on permanent parole, and if you slip up again, there's not even a chance at a trial. Instant execution on the spot.
I will point out, though, that most of these rules, in order to break them, you have to do a little bit more than slip up.
Yeah.
These are not something, unless you're in a situation like Molly, these are not something you're going to do by accident.
Yeah.
The only one you may possibly do by accident is lose control of your magic and kill someone.
Yeah.
Well, if you're that out of control, you're an apprentice, so there's loopholes.
And the other kind of thing is you might get a super overzealous warden as your parole officer who basically interprets any shade of gray, any kind of loophole as going too far and will execute you on the spot.
I mean, to be fair,
yeah.
I think, some of these are a lot more black and white than Dresden would want to believe.
Yeah.
As a character. Hence why I said, who's the hero in this franchise?
Yeah. And the final one. Thou shalt not look beyond the outer gates.
What's that, divination?
No. It's looking into things that exist beyond our reality. Essentially trying to summon or research Lovecraftian monstrosities.
I mean, in a world with magic, that's a very blurry line.
Not necessarily in the Dresden Files, because there's our mortal realm, and then there's the Never Never, which is
the magical realm.
Well, yeah, which is your fairies, your demons, your angels, your gods, etc. And then beyond that is the outer gates.
I will point out there are several gods in several major religions that definitely count as like eldritch abominations.
Yeah.
Just
But
so that
and so technically there is one wizard on the White Council who can break that law, because it's his job to help defend against it.
He keeps the door shut. He
keeps the door shut.
Yeah.
And there is another position on the White Council called the Black Staff, and he's basically kind of got carte blanche to break the laws if he needs to, because he's essentially their black ops guy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, considering some of the stuff Dresden gets up to, I think that's the job he should apply for.
Yeah.
Because it's coming back to me now as we're talking these books.
Yeah.
He's very... blasé.
Yeah.
About the law.
Yeah.
Now, none of those laws are entirely, unreasonable.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they're enforced so stringently and one strike and you're out, 2 strikes and you're out.
You only get a second strike on very specific occasions.
Yeah, so 1 strike and you're out is a bit.
Yeah.
Equally, if anyone did any of those things to me, I'd kind of probably be grateful for the 1 strike and you're out rule.
Yeah.
Anyone willing to do those things is clearly someone who has a very, shall we say, flexible ethical and moral code. Yeah. So, cool.
Yeah, and
also you have a Santi in the chat.
Yes, hi Santi.
Hi Santi.
and there is kind of a trope, especially in some of the earlier books of the series, where Harry has to kind of become the monster in order to win the day.
I think a lot of them, though, because they are very clear-cut and clearly worded, you could spend years arguing in court over these.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could very easily get off on various technicalities.
Yeah. But in in regards to the trope of, Harry becoming the monster, like in Full Moon, he ends up putting on briefly becoming a Hexen wolf, which is a werewolf that uses magical devices to transform. There are like these magic belts that you can put on and kind of, and then transform.
Okay, can I have one that turns me into a cat, please, just so I can curl up somewhere warm?
In Blood Rights, Harry Harry dies, kills himself and dies for, stops his heart and dies for a couple minutes, and gets resuscitated and basically teams up with his own ghost to get out of the sticky situation that he was in.
I mean, that to me isn't breaking the rules because he's consenting to it. He knows what he's doing.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is he's not breaking the rules, but there is a trope where Harry will give up, some of his humanity, will cross some kind of a line in order to get the job done. Like for instance, Sue in Dead Beat. And in Changes, I know we're not going to talk much about Changes because it is the most spoilery book of the series. He eventually signs up to, be the Winter Knight for the Fairy Court, or for the Winter Court of the Fae, after saying no to Mab for half the series by then.
So again, it's every man has his limits.
Yeah,
and he hits a limit. And I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's nice to find a franchise that's got this character who's more than just pure good and light and but he's. The thing I liked about Harry when I first read it, I think he's very human.
Yeah.
And again, this is why I got a Constantine vibe from him, he drives a clapped out car, he lives in a not the best place, he talks like a human being, none of this, he advertises in the phone book.
Yeah.
How 90s is that?
Yeah. Hold on. I'll bring up, there are pictures of his advertisement that people have done.
Yeah.
His business card.
His business card is brilliant.
I'm actually gonna.
He has a cat that adopted him or adopted his house. He's just a normal bloke
who can throw spells around.
Yeah, who just happens to throw spells around.
Yeah.
And he's got that really down-to-earth sense of humor.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the character. He drinks occasionally. I think he smokes. Does he smoke? I feel like I've read him smoking a couple of times.
I'm not sure if he has, but I could see him smoking.
Yeah, this is what I mean by he's very Constantine-esque.
Yeah.
Like, you can see Constantine in the raggy clothes and the.
So, keep going. I'm just pulling up the.
You can see that, and I like those kind of characters because those are the kind of characters who are a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah.
And when you're unpredictable in fiction, it's fun. You're gonna have to zoom in on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna. There we go. So, Harry Dresden Wizard. Lost items found, paranormal investigations, consulting, advice, reasonable rates. No love potions, endless purses, parties, or other entertainment.
It's just so blunt. I love it. I just,
Yeah.
And he's very obvious what he is. He's not saying I'm a PI. He's not pretending to be human. He just is what he is.
Yeah.
Although I do not envy the poor mother trying to get a magician for a 3-year-old's birthday for him.
Yeah.
Not least because his phone line is going to be so crackly.
Yeah.
And that is the most irritating thing when you're on the phone.
Or, cripes. Or, another good example of his rather infamous snark is, holy shit, I breathed. Hellhounds.
Language.
Michael turned to me. You know how I feel about cussing. Holy shit, I breathed. Heckhounds.
That's a brilliant line.
Yeah.
And the one-liners are really good. I cannot fault Jim Butcher's sense of humor. He's just really good. It's rare you get a humorist like that. Probably him, John Scalzi. Who else is really good at the one-liners? Those are probably the only two I can think of off the top of my head who I'd put that high. Possibly like Neil Gaiman in a few of them.
Yeah.
Terry Pratchett, but rest in peace.
Terry Pratchett's more like absurdist humor, less about the snark. And so, I'd probably say just like Jim Butcher and John Scalzi from what I've read.
Neil Gaiman does he does the jokes, but they're not one-liners. They're a little bit more in depth than that. Although it's the same level of humor, it is that good. It's just a different style. And I would not. I mean, okay, right. We're going to pretend that the TV show doesn't exist because we've seen how you respond to that.
Yeah.
If you were casting a movie or a series of movies, who would you have playing Dresden? Anyone, past or present, alive or dead, who would you have?
Okay. Well, present, I like I said, I really like Paul Blackthorne as Harry. Especially seeing his what he brings to Arrow as the chief of police, as the police chief. But the problem with him as Harry in the TV show is that they didn't give him anything to work with. So, with the right writer, I'd say Paul Blackthorne would make a very good Harry for modern present. Past. I'm like, if you could find someone who was like a good, like I'm kind of stuck between Cary Grant or Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, I feel like Humphrey Bogart would definitely bring that oldie worldy, slightly misogynistic, but he means well vibe to it.
Yeah, Humphrey Bogart would bring the like noir vibe, and like Cary Grant would, like, if you had that like noir vibe of Humphrey Bogart with like the snappiness of Cary Grant, that's your Harry.
Yeah, you're describing Hugh Grant.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I could see Hugh Grant as a like it, and he can do a pretty decent American accent.
Well, he did it in House for all those years, didn't he?
Yeah, he can do a brilliant American accent. So yeah, Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant for Harry Dresden. Though I will say he is getting a bit
he's getting a bit older now, yeah.
A bit old for like a rather physical role like Harry would be. Because there is an awful lot of running involved.
David Tennant?
Yeah.
We know David Tennant can run.
Yeah, if David, no, actually, out of the doctors, I'd say Eccleston.
Yeah, I could. Yes. The only problem with Eccleston is the accent.
Yeah, the only problem with Eccleston is the accent.
Because I'm sorry, a Dresden from Manchester, I just yeah. Although, I mean, he's an actor; he might be able to pull off different accents.
Yeah, like if Eccleston could pull off an American accent, I'd peg him as my top pick for Dresden.
I only asked that to get your idea of, because a lot of actors get typecast, so you can tell a lot about what someone thinks of a character by the actors they pick to play them.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I don't know what his name is, but you know the guy who played on Netflix Daredevil?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like he could be a good Dresden. Like, he's got the accent, he's got the look, he's got the smart ass, like, side eye going.
Yeah.
And he's just quippy enough to get away with it.
Yeah.
He could be quite good. But I do think for me it would be a toss-up between Eccleston and Tennant.
Yeah.
Depending on whether you wanted to go more snarky or whether you wanted to go more towards Tennant style.
Now for Thomas, which is actually Harry's half brother. Spoilers.
Yeah, but Thomas is basically a stereotypical good paladin, isn't he? Lawful good paladin.
No, Thomas is the White Court vampire.
Okay.
The pretty boy. I'd actually put Orlando Bloom as Thomas, because for Thomas, really what you need is a pretty boy.
I honestly would not have said that until I saw Orlando Bloom in Troy, and I assure you he's perfectly capable of playing a himbo. So yeah. I'll go with that.
Also, if I actually mostly picked Orlando Bloom because there's this brilliant scene in Changes that isn't at all spoilery, so I'm gonna kind of go into it, where the gang is all together and they start to and they're like, hey, there are 9 of us. We're the Fellowship of the Ring. And they start trying to assign parts. And Thomas gets Legolas.
Yeah, okay. That could be a fun bit of meta, yeah.
Yeah. I basically just picked that for the meta.
If we're looking at other pretty boys, though, that age group, Colin Firth's a bit old. I don't know why I feel like Thomas would have to be like the stereotypical blonde pretty boy, like that That one. So maybe like the guy who played the Mentalist.
Yeah.
Who played Patrick Jane in The Mentalist. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But okay, who would do the voice of Bob?
Ooh. Oh, that.
Whose voice acting is so on the money for Bob?
Okay. That's a tough one. Oh.
This is my knowing smile, because I know as soon as I say the name, you're going to go, damn, why didn't I think of that?
Well, okay. Who are you going to...
Rowan Atkinson.
Huh? Yeah, I can see that.
Because he can pull off, I feel like Bob would be... The way you pull off Bob is you give him a really highbrow accent and you leave his lines exactly the same as in the book.
Yeah.
Which Rowan Atkinson could pull off. If not him, then possibly Stephen Fry, but
Yeah.
Stephen Fry I don't think has got the edge to the sarcasm. Yes, Brainbug Simon Baker plays the Mentalist. Thank you.
My mind went to Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I can see that too. Again, it's got to be someone who can really pull off a cutting jab, but also someone who can sound leery.
Yeah.
Like the kind of person who makes you feel dirty if you just listen to them say something.
Yeah.
Like they could be commenting on the weather and you're checking your pockets. He's a jag man. That's who it's got to be. It's got to be a jag man. And if you're British or you watch Top Gear, you know what I mean by that.
Yeah. So, hold on. Because this quote is just brilliant. So, gonna pull that up. Oh, yeah, I'll try and zoom in.
Yeah. There are other reading apps available.
Hold on. Okay. Scroll a bit, so... okay. It's like 8. Thomas corrected himself. He rolled his eyes, and the Psycho Death Fairy makes 9. It's like the movie. Dibs on Legolas. Are you kidding? I'm obviously Legolas. He squinted thoughtfully at Sonya, then at Martin. Well, he's Boromir, and you're clearly Aragorn. Martin is so dour, he's more like Gimli. Sonya pointed at Susan. Her sword is more like Aragorn's. Aragorn wishes he looked that good. What about Karen? What, for Gimli? She's fairly... Finish that sentence and we throw down.
Rough. Yeah. I was going to say rough. But yeah, you are right again, Brainbug. It wasn't Hugh Grant who played House, it was Hugh Laurie. Although Hugh Grant would still make a good Dresden. I stand by that. Because he'd pull off that sort of oldie worldy upper class idiot. But then he's also like, he means well. He's a little bit bumbling, but he gets there.
Yeah. Mouse was lobbying to claim Gimli on the basis of being the shortest, the stoutest, and the hairiest. Mouse is Harry's temple dog. Sonya, I said, who did I get cast as? Sam. I blinked at him. Oh, for crying out loud. I was perfectly obvious who I should have been. Sonya shrugged. It was no contest. They gave Gandalf to your godmother.
You got Sam.
Yeah. And
Hugh Laurie would be a good voice for Bob. Yes.
Yes.
I could see that.
But and actually there's a brilliant quote after it, but I'm not sure if it's if it's logged online about how Sam is, the real hero, like how Sam is the real hero of the Lord of the Rings, and it's his, unwavering loyalty to
so
his friends.
Basically what Dresden tries to do is make the person he's been associated with cool, in much the same way when you got sorted into Hufflepuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
His colour scheme's not accidental, folks. But yeah, Sam is awesome. I love Sam. Sam's definitely the hero of the Lord of the Rings. Fight me.
Yeah.
But not if you're Sam. But yeah.
But yeah.
What else have we got?
And actually that's the best way to, sum up who Dresden is at his core, is he's Sam.
He is. He's ultimately loyal. And that's the thing. He obeys the law so long as it doesn't conflict with his loyalties.
Yeah.
So he's very much chaotic good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely put him at like chaotic good, maybe neutral, bordering on chaotic good.
Yeah. I would have said more chaotic because he really is. Yeah. He is that guy who you think you know what he's going to do. You're sure you know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And then he does something totally different and you go, I should have seen that coming.
Yeah.
That's Harry Dresden.
Yeah. Sam is the biggest badass anyhow.
Agreed.
And actually, yeah, what's gotten Dresden into trouble the most in his, in the series is like when one of the bads of the books like holds him as like, okay, puts him in a situation is like you could do the right thing and screw up everything, or or you can play by the rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the difference, isn't it? It's good versus law. And Dresden plays a lot with that. Jim Butcher does that very well.
Like if I remember right, like there's a conundrum in Blood Rights where, Harry goes to the masquerade ball and he takes Michael with him, the Knight of the Cross, because obviously you want a Knight of the Cross at your back when you're going to a meetup of the big supernatural,
Yeah, he's got God on his side. I call him for my team.
Yeah. Or as Michael puts it, my faith protects me. The Kevlar helps.
Damn it, you couldn't wait till I finish my drink.
Yeah. But Harry's reporter girlfriend snuck into the ball. And Harry had to choose. Did he who will he declare as under his protection for the Accords?
The knight can take care of himself and protect the human.
Yeah.
That's how that goes down.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the right thing, or it's not necessarily the lawful thing, but it is definitely the right thing.
And that's the choice that essentially started the Vampire Wizard War.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, basically up from like the 5th book all the way up to changes, the White Council and the Red Court of Vampires are essentially doing a guerrilla war in the shadows.
Yeah. I do just want to comment on urban fantasy in general. What I do like about Dresden that other urban fantasies kind of miss is that Butcher is really good at making comedy from the pitfalls.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few to do this really seamlessly.
Yeah.
You get certain urban fantasy writers who appreciate that there are pitfalls, but they don't really write them into the plot.
Yeah.
Whereas with Harry, if he gets in a car, it's going to break down and that's going to slow him down.
Yeah.
He can't use a phone. He can't do this, that, and the other. His cat's going to get out. And these things become as much a part of his character as his actual character.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in a lot of urban fantasy, again, comparison to Potter, there's just it's vaguely commented on and then hand waved.
Yeah, and
like, you can't use magic around electronics, but we charmed a flying car. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the thing about also the thing about how the Dresden files is set up as opposed to other, urban fantasies is it's secret, but it's not really secret. Because, like for instance, in Harry Potter, there's the whole,
statute
rule
of secrecy. Yeah.
Yeah, statute of secrecy. In the Dresden files, it's we don't get mortals directly involved, because that's essentially like bringing a nuke. That's essentially like firing a nuke. Because, then the pitchforks come out, and it's like the one thing mortals are good at is figuring out how to kill us.
Yeah.
But everything's kind of out in the open, but people just kind of write it off.
I mean, it's a big city, especially a city like Chicago. People write it off.
Yeah.
I know. This is why there's a great debate in just taking it to the Harry Potter fandom a minute to illuminate this. There's a great debate about how does no one notice all these kids going to platform 9 3/4 every year. Yeah. I'm sorry, if you've ever walked through a London train station at 9 o'clock in the morning, you know how they missed that. People don't see past the end of their own noses and the train they're heading for.
Yeah,
it's perfectly realistic, and that does translate over, I think.
And heck, with the whole, Sue scene, pretty much any, like, it's like most of the bystanders, like, it was explained that, most of the bystanders are like, what the fuck was in my drink?
Well, that's it, isn't it? We even say jokingly, you see something unusual, you think, what was I eating? What was in my food? What was in my drink?
Yeah.
And did I not get enough sleep last night? People will explain a lot away.
Yeah, basically within a few days, like it would have either been rationalized away or people would have forgotten about it.
As human beings, we're very good at rationalizing things away that we don't understand.
Yeah. And that is another big point in the Dresden Files. It's why or in fact, it could be, could it possibly be why Marconi in particular is so dangerous, is he accepts that the supernatural exists and then works within the system towards his advantage.
Yeah.
And in fact, it looks like peace talks is going to be taking place at like some kind of a summit that Marconi's set up.
I'm sorry, has no one seen The Godfather? You don't go to a summit set up by the mob boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure Jim Butcher's got a way around that.
Yeah.
It is that though, isn't it? It's the whole knowledge. It's knowing things you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And again, this is a line, because I noticed in those 13 rules in Dresden, there's nothing about forbidden knowledge. There's nothing about you shouldn't know this or you shouldn't try this.
There's only one. There is one.
Yeah, but it's
the bit about do not look beyond the outer gates. Yeah.
But even still, that's you can still learn about it, just don't do it.
Yeah.
The knowledge has to be there somewhere in order to protect it. And
yeah, but the only one who's even allowed to try and research that knowledge is the gatekeeper.
Yeah. Okay, so fair.
No, that, yeah, even trying to like find the Necronomicon or whatever is.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm getting at is within the bounds of what magic is in this world, there's no real limits to what you can learn.
Yeah.
And I say what you can learn, not what you can practice.
Yeah.
Because no one is going to say to you, you can't learn about, for example, how the brain works and how thought processes are put together. You can't learn in-depth neurology in order to advise on how you might potentially apply that to psychomancy.
Yeah.
However, what they're saying is you can know it, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
Which is fair, which is reasonable.
And though there are some things that the White Council like has made so like it can like straight up not be accomplished. Because in regards to the magic system of the Dresden Files is the power has to come from somewhere. Like, whether you're pulling heat from something to, throw a fire spell, or using the energy of a storm for a ritual, or, calling on some, some deity or other magical entity. Well, the thing is, even something as powerful as a god is still somewhat finite as a source of power. So what the White Council does is, if it finds a particularly nasty ritual that they don't really want working, is they'll mass produce it out to the public. And so you've got all these people trying to tap into that power line, but there's not enough power to make it work anymore.
It's like a denial of service attack on a computer.
Basically.
And for those who don't get that reference, essentially, if you've ever had your work network go down because they said that we've had a denial of service, what it means is someone sat on a computer somewhere and has tricked your network into thinking 10,000 computers are trying to log on to it all at once.
Yeah.
It's why websites go down when too many people try and log on to them. That is essentially a denial of service attack, but it's not an attack.
Yeah.
Unless it is. So it just overloads the system. Can't take it. There's only so much you can put through the bottleneck.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it all is based in a basic understanding of physics, which again, not something that appears in the world belonging to the other wizard named Harry.
Yeah.
Or the wizard, the other wizard named.
The more familiar wizard named Harry.
Yeah. Because that just has no physics at all.
Yeah. And hello, Aniceto, if I pronounce that correctly.
You're doing better than me. I'm not even going to try. Hello. I'm not good with names. I apologize. I'm dyslexic. That wasn't meant as an insult. I'm not good with reading out names. But that's an interesting take, that magic, like anything else, is just another form of energy.
Yeah.
And it actually, you would think it would narrow down what you could do with magic. It doesn't. It actually expands it, because the more you understand, the more you can do with it. Yeah, you did good.
I did good. I did good.
So I do like the idea of magic based in some form of reality and keeping it, realistic. It to me, in Dresden, magic feels a bit like an electromagnet.
Yeah.
So it's very much it's why it's the impression I got when I saw the way the bug responded to him. It's so much of it all at once. You put an electromagnet in a room with a computer, the computer will be killed.
Yeah.
And wiped. And it kind of feels like that. It's like too much power all at once. It's like,
Yeah. The way magic interacts with technology is more of like, because mortals who use magic are weird. And it's actually been explained that the whole interfering with technology is a kind of a new thing. Earlier it'd be like, some some crops might fail, calves being born with weird marks on them, or the wizard themselves would have like a weird birthmark.
What we're saying is the Spanish Inquisition was right.
Yeah. It's very the Dresden Files is very much like one of those settings where basically everything exists.
Yeah. I think I'm running out of ideas, and we have been going an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So
So thank you all for watching, and hello to Compelled Unbeliever. Sorry that you caught us at the very end of it. But this, if you'd like, if any of what we discussed piqued your interest, I highly recommend the series. If you're not too into like reading full-blown novels, I think the first 3 are have graphic novel versions of them, and a lot of them are on Audible, though Hissy said something about not liking that particular narrator, but I have heard good things about them.
Yeah, I have issues with various narrators and things. It looks like they're actually all on Audible, and they all have 5 stars, so it's probably just me. They appear to have been narrated by Leighton Pugh, I think that's pronounced. Audible does give you tiny snippets so you can hear the name, so you can hear the way the narration sounds.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be a copyright strike to play that so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. So, because it's only a few seconds worth, but if we have a look.
And even though they were once again starting to open their eyes to the world of magic and the arcane that had been with them all the while.
Now, on Audible, James Masters narrates the first one.
Yeah.
So it is different ones for each one. So do check it out. He does a second one as well. I'm just scrolling through. Third. So James Masters definitely does the first 5.
Yeah.
Possibly more. 6. Actually, James Masters wouldn't be a bad Dresden.
Yeah. But if you're into reading, read the books. If you're not into reading, novels, there are graphic novels. I know of Stormfront and Suit and Full Moon. I'm not sure how far the graphic novel adaptations have gone, but I know that that's something that's being worked on.
And just for those who are interested, Peace Talks is already listed on Audible to pre-order.
Yeah.
So you can pre-order it, and it's another one that will be narrated by James Masters.
Yeah.
So they're all on there.
Yeah, so if you don't like reading books, there's graphic novels. If you don't like reading full stop, or if you don't have time to read, there's Audible. And no, this is in no way sponsored.
No, it's not sponsored. If it was, believe me, you'd know.
Yeah.
But because as I said earlier, I'm dyslexic. I've recently got into audiobooks, so always worth just letting people know what's out there, I think, and different accessibility options.
And after and actually Jim Butcher is very prolific. He usually gets out like one every year or every 2 years. This year there are 2 coming out.
You just look so excited when you said that.
Yeah.
Actually adorable.
Yeah, the Grr. Yeah, the Dresden Files is the one series where I will drop what I'm reading to pick up the new book. If I can access it.
Getting him to put down any book at all is just a problem. So when he says that, listen, that's probably the highest praise you're ever going to hear for a set of books.
But yeah, so Peace Talks comes out this Tuesday, and then Battlegrounds comes out in September. So given that the title of the next book coming out, the book coming out in September is called Battlegrounds, I don't think these Peace Talks are going to go very well. But you could have probably guessed that, seeing as how Harry Dresden is involved.
Yeah, with Harry Dresden's involved, it ain't going to end pretty.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I will say I will give a quick lightning round of how the Dresden Files is better than Harry Potter. So we've already covered the legal system. We've already covered the magic system. We've already covered that Harry's a much better mentor than Dumbledore.
Yes, but Harry is not the equivalent to Dumbledore in his series. Harry is the protagonist. So you'd have to compare Harry by Harry in order to get a consideration.
Though, I mean, he does essentially become something of a Dumbledore figure later, as he, as more, as...
Yes, but he's still the protagonist of his own franchise and therefore should be compared to Harry Potter, not to Dumbledore.
Okay. And here... Harry doesn't really get Deus Ex Machina.
Harry Potter doesn't raise dinosaurs from the dead.
Yeah. There is a lot less, there isn't really that much Deus Ex Machina in Harry Dresden. It's more like Harry has a crazy plan that he pulls out of his ass that happens to work out, but there's still bad complications from it.
Yeah, that's pretty Deus Ex Machina.
Well, no, it still screws him up down the line. He still gets the shit beaten out of it, but at least he doesn't die.
Yeah, okay, fair. You can have that one.
And also, if you look at Jim Butcher's Twitter, it's basically him and wholesome pictures of his pets.
Okay, we're not comparing authors because Harry Potter loses.
But
that's a low blow. The less said on that, the better. Move on.
Yeah. And okay, I'll avoid how Jim Butcher interacts with his fans on canon questions then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any final thoughts?
I mean, what I really like, and I think the one saving the one thing that for me makes Dresden better than Potter is the very simple fact that Dresden is a grown man.
Yeah.
There's a different level of interaction you can have there that's just not present in the Potter series. And it is very much...
And that does kind of tie back to how I said, the first few books are essentially stealth world building.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Potter series, you get your world building thrown at you because he's attending a school. In the Dresden series, you get the world building as he's investigating cases.
Okay, Jim Butcher has a staffy, you win. I just found him on Twitter. He has a staffy, you win.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about, for me, I think if you're a teenager and you finish Potter and you're looking for something else to read, look at Dresden. But don't look at Dresden until you're at least 17, 18. And I don't say that because it's too adult or anything for you or because there's any sort of warnings that are required. But purely because until you're that age and you've seen a little bit of the world, had a little bit of your own romantic entanglements, and you get satire.
Yeah.
You actually get it rather than just laughing because the adults in the room are laughing. And, you've got to the age where you pay attention to the news, where you pay attention to world events. And you can see the very subtle parallels that are sometimes drawn between the legal systems and the commentary being made on it. You're not going to appreciate these books. And these books really deserve to be appreciated.
Yeah.
So just do yourself that favor. I mean, if you are 13 years old and you are like uber aware of the news and uber aware of how legal systems work, have at it, kid. But
I will say, especially in regards to Stormfront, I do put the Dresden Files at something of a heavy PG-13.
Yes, but you put some Disney movies at something of a heavy PG-13 ring.
And I'm sorry if what I'm about to say will, cause YouTube to shut us down.
Yeah.
But Stormfront literally begins with Dresden walking into a crime scene where two people had their hearts explode out of their chests, and it is described it is described in detail.
Yeah, okay. So, there's some gore.
Yeah.
You've got to expect that.
Yeah.
So, if you're old enough to handle the gore, or it doesn't bother you or whatever reason, and you also understand the other things I mentioned, go for it. Otherwise, watch it. I mean, probably shouldn't say this on a live stream. I was watching the uncut version of Game of Death at 9 years old. I know what it all looks like. You know what I'm saying? But, so, take it as you find it, but make sure you appreciate these books for what they are.
Yeah.
And if you did read them when you were young, go back and read them again. You'll probably find more in them.
Yeah. One last thing is also Dresden is very much kind of like a Spider-Man figure in that he's snarky, he's loyal, and he understands that he's got to do the right thing.
Spider-Man or Deadpool?
Spider-Man, because life keeps shitting on him.
I reiterate, Spider-Man or Deadpool. So I think that's a fair point to say. I don't like policing what other people read, but just if you are going to read it, make sure you're in a position to enjoy it because they are a good series.
So if gore triggers you, I'd suggest skipping Stormfront. That's the only one that really gets too gory. There are some descriptions in Full Moon of werewolf attacks, so there is that. But the gore is only really bad in Stormfront, from what I recall.
Look, these books have got great reviews on Audible, on Goodreads, and everywhere else. If if things like that are going to trigger you, read the reviews and the summaries first. Yeah. Check what's there. Again, this is another reason I say if you're an adult, read them. Read them as an adult, because as an adult, you are more likely to be willing to curate your own experience.
Yeah.
And less likely to blame the author for it. Please don't blame the author. He looks really sweet. He's always sharing pictures of his dog, which means I immediately like him.
Yeah. and I will say, aside from the main series, there are collections of short stories and also tangential graphic novels, which also take place in the timeline. But you don't need to read them. You only have, you don't need to read them to understand the story. They're cherries on top. No,
you just need to read them if you're an Uber fanboy like Ring.
Yeah. If you're an Uber fanboy, then also, if you do read them and get hooked, you're welcome.
However, if you read them and get hooked and you want to assign blame, it's his fault.
Yeah. And and with that, I think we'll move to shilling.
Cool. Not much to shill for me. Asterix and Obelisk every week with Godless Scummer. We had some issues this week. I think we've picked up a troll. We'll pick up next week. We'll probably end up doing the next one in the series after Asterix and the Olympic Games, which your guess is as good as mine, which one that is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point this week. It's either on my channel or on Jeff's. Check out both. Tonight, Classics Twitter is watching Trojan Women, which is online if you want to follow the hashtag for that, because I will always shill for classics. I have a tutor who's doing a series of lessons all online every week on classical history in modern films. Cannot recommend highly enough. Check out my Twitter at Danger Hissy. I'm constantly chatting away to him, retweeting him. His name's Tony Keane. If you find him, enjoy. He's a great bloke. Can't argue with that. I think that's everything I've got to shill. I also write fan fiction. If you find it, Dead Dove, do not eat.
Yeah. And
cool.
Thank you, Compelled Unbeliever. I appreciate the compliment. I'm not really doing very many edited videos because of work schedule, but every Saturday I run secular D&D, and I'm surprised YouTube didn't hit the last session.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Every Sunday, at least until October, is Media Musings. Next week will be the season premiere of season 2, where we will be talking about Les Mis.
Do you hear the people singing Couldn't resist. But yeah, I'll be joining in for that one, so do come along. Should be fun. You get to see how I respond after trying to read the entire book in a week, because I've been procrastinating on that.
Or at least
more realistically, I'll have read the Spark Notes.
Yeah. and to be fair, from what I've read so far, the musical is a very good set of Spark Notes. And the BBC miniseries is also a good, slightly more in-depth set of Spark Notes.
Tends to be how it goes, yeah.
Yeah. So, tagline.
Take care, be good, and as always, if you can't be good, be careful.
And since my fabulous co-host isn't quite here, I'll just say indoctrination is a hell of a drug. Bye.
Bye.